one-year Bible. Here's the devotion for August 26th. We're looking at Job chapter 20, verse 1 through chapter 22, verse 30. And Zophar is the first to speak. He's offended by the way Job has discredited his claim to be wise. And so his first point is that the joy of the godless is brief. But Job has already argued that the life of all people is transitory. His first point has been refuted already by Job. Zophar's idea also of God's justice is that it's much more immediate than we often see. There is a certain realism in Zophar's line of thought. If judgment seems slow, it is because God uses a person's own wickedness to bring about their downfall. In chapter 20, verse 23, there seems to be a new poem in Zophar's speech. Zophar is basically calling down God's wrath on the wicked. One failure in Zophar's line of thought is that he seems to leave no room for the wicked to repent. He has no compassion and thinks that God must not be merciful. He's also materialistic. For him, the ultimate punishment is having your stuff taken away. The loss of fellowship with God doesn't even enter his mind as being any worse than that. Yet, loss of fellowship with God is foremost in Job's mind. Now, Job's speech in chapter 21 is unusual because it is the only speech of Job in the book of Job in which he confines his remarks to his friends and does not either go into a soliloquy or a prayer to God. Also, he kind of summarizes his friends' arguments by repeating them, so it's a little hard to follow perhaps until you realize that. However, what we have here is he has kind of a more formalized debate structure to his speech. Now, Bildad, Eliphaz, and Zophar have all referred to, one way or another, the tent of the wicked being laid waste by the wrath of God. Job, on the other hand, is angered by his friend's lack of empathy. A more fitting response would have been for them to be silent and just listen like they did at first. Yet even Job's friends, if they could have done that, still would not have met his needs. Their words, as it is, are empty and false. Their comfort amounts to mockery. Job's friends tried to say that sin produces suffering, and suffering is proof of sin. Job denies both. He knows all too well that often the wicked live carefree. Zophar declared that the wicked die prematurely. Job points out that quite often the opposite happens. Bildad declared that the wicked die childless. Job points out that they often have big families. Eliphaz declared that Job's tent would be safe. Job denies this. Job's friends declare that the wicked do not prosper. But Job points out that they often do. Life is more complicated than Job's friends presume. In the end, Job finds the thinking of his friends so dishonest that he thinks their thinking can only arise from malice. Chapter 22 begins a new round of speeches, and here we have Eliphaz. He's not such a bad guy, really. He's pretty good, yet in his final speech, we see that one of his biggest shortcomings is his failure to walk a mile in Job's shoes, as it were, to see Job's problem with Job's eyes, much less feel it with Job's feelings. He thinks that Job has charged God with moral indifference, yet Job has never questioned God in this way. It seems to Eliphaz that Job feels that God doesn't care. Eliphaz points out God's active judgment as proof that he does, and Eliphaz is emphatic that God could not possibly be reproving Job for his fear of God, that is, Job's faith in God. Yet, having seen behind the scenes already in the book of Job, we know that this is exactly what's going on. Eliphaz falls into the error that is the opposite of what he accuses Job of. Eliphaz is implying that God is indifferent to human virtue. Nevertheless, we know that Job's righteousness was a matter of immense pleasure for God. Eliphaz brands Job a sinner, yet we have seen that Job was innocent of the particular list of sins presented by Eliphaz. Finally, Eliphaz's closing words are earnest, and what he says about God is correct. But his error is that he fails to see that his accusations are irrelevant when it comes to Job. His evangelistic zeal for Job to repent is admirable. If Eliphaz had not misjudged Job, his proclamation of salvation through forgiveness of the penitent would have been the brightest word that any of the friends had said to this point. As such, his words have an intrinsic truth that need not be denied. Job's difficulty lies in that he has indeed already repented and he does believe in God's mercy and forgiveness. He just wonders why things seem so strange and why he seems so estranged from God at this moment in his life. May God be with you and bless you, and I'll look forward to